The greatest sports watch of all time. What is it? And which brand is attributed to it? Well, there can only be Rolex. Rolex invented the sports watch genre. And I think the greatest sports watch of all time would have to be, you'd have to give it to the 90s Submariner. That's right, that's the Holes case sapphire crystal Submariner, the 16610, with holes in case and without that horrible ceramic bezel. And I think once the dust is settled on the new model, this is going to be where the true perfection lies in the Rolex range. So there you go. The 16610 is probably the greatest Submariner of modern times, and it's going to be a classic without that ugly ceramic bezel. I mean, the ceramic bezel is a fucking mistake, and they've made the case put on weight unnecessarily. I mean, why would you do that? Stay away from that, Rolex. And this classic 90s piece here, these are good bang per buck for a Submariner. And look at the lines, look at the colour. I mean, it's just such a gorgeous Submariner. I mean, preferably you should never wear this with a suit, but with this type of Submariner you could almost carry it off. And it's just such a beautiful piece. The next contender coming up is also from the Submariner family, and that's the Rolex Sea Dweller. The Sea Dweller is probably the most iconic deep sea diving watch, and 4,000 feet, how could you go wrong with that? And the Sea Dweller has a lot more class than the deep sea ever will. The deep sea is a mistake, and preferably you'd want a Sea Dweller with a Holes case. That's the traditional tool watch, and that's what it is. It's a tool watch. It's not a fucking fashion accessory. It's the one of the greatest tool watches of all time. The Sea Dweller, I think, has got great investment potential. It's a modern Rolex you can buy and use, and you will make money on. Speaking of sports watches, one of the most iconic is the GMT. And the GMT2 Sapphire without ceramic bezel, is another classic. I would stay away from the ceramic. Ceramic is a mistake, and it certainly does not belong on a sports Rolex. And the problem with the ceramic bezel is also they've beefied up the case. They've put on weight unnecessarily so. Why you would do that is beyond me. I mean, you're not a Panerai, you're a Rolex. You need to do things in a dignified way. And the GMT's been famous with royalty. Prince Edward wears a GMT. A lot of royals do, and you can see why. The GMT2 is just such a classic, beautiful watch. And stay away from the ceramic. Ceramic is a fashion fad that will come and go, and that is where my advice lies. If you want something a little bit more unusual, there's the Rolex Explorer 2, and especially with the white dial, the polar option, it's a fantastic looking piece, and it's basically the same piece as the GMT2, except it's got a fixed metal bezel. So it's just, I think it's more of a classic piece than the GMT, but again, I would be going for a Holes case version. No Holes case is for dress watches. This is a sports watch. It's a tools watch. You want to be able to strap on a leather strap or a rubber strap when you want to. And this is the whole beautiful thing about having a Holes case Rolex. You can take off your strap or your bracelet at any time and put something else on. And look at this piece here. How could you not love it? And it's an honest sports watch. It's just got so much going for it there. And in my preference, I would have to say the Polar Explorer 2 is the premium GMT Rolex sports watch. I honestly think this model here is a 16570, and I think it's a lot more classy than the oversized donkey that's come in lately. That's the replacement GMT2, sorry, the replacement Explorer 2, and that's a mistake. And the proportions are all wrong. The sizing's just plain ugly. I mean, why you'd want to compete with Breitling size when your Rolex is just way beyond me. And the 40mm version, which you're seeing on the screen from the 90s, is the classic piece to get. And as I say, on a sports watch, go for the Holes case. It's not a fashion piece. This is a sports watch. It's a utility type watch. So, it's not something to be worn with a suit. This is a piece to be worn when you're trekking through Antarctica, when you're going on a sea voyage. This is what these pieces are made for. They're not meant to be worn with suits. And the beautiful thing about the Explorer 2 is it looks just as elegant on a steel oyster bracelet as it does on a leather strap. And this is where it really excels. It's one of the most iconic, classic watches of all time. And with the Rolex Explorer, if you look at the back of the watch itself, on the buckle, you've got a choice of the early oyster buckle or the later flip lock. Go for the earlier one. The flip lock is clumsy and just really serves no purpose. The original oyster clasp is the one to go for. It's just elegant, it's stylish, without being dicky and overcomplicated. The Explorer 2 itself, as I've mentioned, is preferable to have case holes in the watch there. The only thing you've got to decide is, do you want the white dial Explorer 2 or do you want the traditional black dial? Now the black dial itself there is gorgeous, but personally in Archie's case he would prefer the Polar, the white dial. But that doesn't mean that the black dial for different people isn't the way to go. They're both gorgeous, but it depends. If you've got a sub, you might want to have something a little bit different. In Archie's case, he's got a Speedmaster Pro for the black dial in a sports watch, and he's got the white dial in the Explorer 2. But it's up to yourself there. If you want something that's really restrained and classic, why not go for the Rolex Explorer, also known as the Explorer 1? And this is the beautiful 369 dial, and it's just a gorgeous chronometer grade movement in a classic beautiful sports watch. And this is where all these sports watches got their beginning from, because the Explorer with a bezel became the Submariner, it became the GMT, and it all started with this very piece, the Rolex Explorer 1. And it's just absolutely gorgeous, and you can't do any wrong with a Rolex Explorer. Try and get the older version, because the big jumbo size version is far too big. And if you really want an obnoxious sports watch, there is only one choice, and that's the solid gold Submariner. Now the reason I say this is because 18 karat is 18 karat, and if you want to pull out the best fucking looking sports watch that was ever invented, there's only one way to do it, and that's with a big chunky solid gold Submariner. And it makes a statement. It just tells people to fuck off, you've got more money, and get out of my way. Whereas a Patek does it very, very subtly, and only for those in the know, the gold Submariner is as obnoxious as they come. I'm Archie Luxury, and thanks for watching this video. Goodbye.